We've next got Andrew Jones up from DIA. So, James is not. Yeah. No, I've got Andrew. James, you're first. Okay, well, let's hope so. So, James, you've put me out of whack here. You're doing digital identity and verifiable credentials. I've heard about you. You once participated in a game show and won a year's supply of your favourite snack. But I've not been able to find out what the game show was or what your favourite snack is. So if you can share that with us later, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was The Price is Right, and cup ramen was the answer to that. Kia ora koutou, ko himi iti toku ingoa. Kia ora, my name is James Little, and I work at Te Taretai Whenua, the Department of Internal Affairs, as with it appears about half of this room, which is always good to see. The reason for the two-part act is I'm talking about high, lofty ideals and concepts, and then Andrew's going to come and talk about actual practical things. So I get to set the scene a little bit on that front. So I'm talking to you today at a pivotal moment in the evolution of our nation's digital public infrastructure. And I think this is a word and a concept being used a lot more lately, which is really important and really well defines what digital identity is. When I talk about digital identity, I'm talking about decentralized digital identity, sometimes known as self-sovereign identity. But it's really reached a point of maturity where it's no longer a theoretical concept. It's live and it's ready to be implemented here in New Zealand. So this technology empowers individuals by putting control of data back into their hands. And it's really built with security and privacy integrated from the outset. This decentralized digital identity places users in control of their own digital identity credentials. It allows users exclusively to determine how and when their information is shared. I like to think of it sort of as an analogy as the digital equivalent of the physical wallet full of cards you once perhaps carried or still carry. It's kind of, in a sense, back to the future. But here in Aotearoa, we're really ready for this transition. The enabling technologies are coming together and they're embedding around common standards, and the Trust Framework Authority, the legislative authority, is now embedded in New Zealand law. The barriers to widespread adoption are rapidly diminishing. And this brings me here today to discuss what it will take to grow the digital identity ecosystem on top of the strong foundation we now have. Now, I know, as with Andrew, I'm often asked, what is digital identity? What are we talking about? And the elevator pitch can be quite difficult, especially when we're talking at a conceptual level. So let's talk about some practical examples. And in essence, digital identity services enable the creation of a digital credential, such as a mobile driver's license, a digital ID, or actually any other verifiable source of information. These credentials, issued to users, allow the user to pass on trusted and verifiable information to parties who need to rely on it. These relying parties can then check the credential to ensure it hasn't been tampered with. But this isn't our current system. Our current system is full of friction. Who here hasn't needed to identify themselves to open a bank account or prove their eligibility to drive a car, or to show delegated authority to act on behalf of something or someone? Speaking from experience, I know the last time I went to a bank down on Lambton Quay, I stood there with two other customers. None of the three of us were there with cash to deposit or withdraw. Nobody was seeking a loan. Nobody was asking for a mortgage. All three of us were trying to demonstrate some form of identifying information. And anybody who's been to a bank branch recently will know they've really turned into a platform to identify in person. Now, so the issues really lie in how we currently perform these tasks, and especially in an evolving digital world. There's also nothing safe, secure, or privacy enhancing about scanning your passport and emailing it to a recipient who you hope is the right person. And even if they are the right person, the risk of them over-collecting or insecurely retaining that data means the creation of honeypots for malicious actors to attack. Now, this isn't a theoretical problem. This is a real problem. The data breaches in 22 and 23 we saw in Optus and Latitude Finance resulted in tens of millions of Australians and New Zealanders having personal identifying data stolen. None of this needed to happen. The other thing is that while these large-scale breaches often catch the headlines, we've become blind to the small-scale, poor privacy practices that consume our day-to-day interactions. If a bouncer only needs to be ensured that I'm over the age of 18, and sadly they're more assured every day, but why do I need to provide my actual date of birth? They only need to know I'm over 18. Why do they need to know my name? Or why do they end up finding out my donor status as I hand over my driver's license? And worst of all, why is the bouncer now taking a photo of that driver's license to hold onto their phone indefinitely and without rationale, and arguably in serious breach of the Privacy Act, but we'll put that to another side. Our current standard day-to-day practices based on physical documents are insecure, and they focus on us constantly oversharing our information with parties we often don't or shouldn't trust. We need to change that, and the public service has a really important role to play in driving that change. By now, I know I've made a convert of you. I heard a couple of hallelujahs up the back, so I'm going to take that as a ringing round of endorsement. And I've touched on the wide-ranging benefits for users and for organisations, for the public sector, for the private sector, for everybody who issues and receives these credentials in the future. But government agencies are going to be really crucial for the widespread adoption of digital identity, both as holders of authoritative information and as recipients of New Zealanders' information. And there are examples and use cases that are already under development. As I mentioned before, my colleague Andrew Jones is going to discuss the exciting work his team's doing on creating a DIA verifiable credential ID. And I don't think collectively we've yet nailed the branding on that, but still to come. But there are other agencies also considering how they will fit into the digital identity ecosystem, whether as credential issuers, receivers, but most likely both for many. Waka Kotahi, for instance, is undertaking discovery work on a mobile driver's licence. They're having a look at what's been done overseas and how that could best work in New Zealand. And they've already settled on the need for them to align with the international ISO mobile driver's licence standard. MB is also considering what information it holds that could be better utilised as digital credentials. Imagine a credential from MB that proves you're the director of a company. How much easier would opening a bank account be? Or what about if you had a credential that demonstrated you were a registered electrician and the type of work you can and cannot do? Any client or site foreman could verify your qualifications in second. How much easier would that be? But what about you? What about the organisations, the public agencies you work for? Are you ready? Have you been thinking about digital identity yet? Where does digital identity integration sit in your roadmap? The theme for this year's Govis conference is Trust to Innovate. That is your call to action. Done well, widespread uptake of digital identity will be pivotal to digitising government to improve the customer experience, improve regulatory compliance, and improve citizen satisfaction with their public services. But done poorly, it will further seed distrust in government, widen the digital divide, and fail to realise the potential of a truly digital government. As a public service, we need to embrace digital identity, but we need to get it right. And based with that groundwork complete, you and your agencies now need to ask yourselves two really important questions. And I realise I flicked early, so you've had a chance to think about it already. The first question is this, and it's simple. What information would your agency like to receive that would make your operational processes easier and the customer journey simpler? MSD is a great example. They've been using DIA's identity check service since November 2023 to verify customers who are applying for ongoing financial assistance. This means customers, about 7,000 a month, who once needed to go to a physical MSD office and spend considerable staff and their own time verifying their identity, can now be completely automated online. Yeah, I think it's worth noting that we all continue to offer online and offline services, and that it's really important we continue to offer that balance. For the customer, it also means the option of not needing to go into an office and being able to do it all from home on their laptop or their smartphone. The next question is a natural follow-up. What information would your customers benefit from holding and being made available as a digital credential? Obviously, in some of the examples I've already used, talk about information that helps customers identify themselves. But that's really only the start. What information does your agency hold that would benefit individuals or organisations if it was easier for them to be able to share with others? What if the information wasn't currently produced in a physical format because it didn't work well, but might be able to in a digital credential? Here's a simple example. Inland Revenue has a near perfect view on exactly how much money you make. What if that information was made available to you to selectively disclose to another agency, if you consent, to demonstrate eligibility? How much easier would it be, for instance, to sign up for a community services card to demonstrate your yearly income was under the necessary threshold? A second, securely, privately, and without you requiring to actually disclose what your income was? And what if you could then reuse that credential to demonstrate to the bank your income was over a different threshold, and that the bank could trust that information and approve you for a new loan on the spot? That's just one example. There are potentially thousands. The shift towards digital identity isn't just a technological upgrade. It's a transformation in how we engage and support New Zealanders. We can streamline processes, we can reduce administrative burdens, and ultimately make a more seamless and secure experience for everyone involved. The benefits extend beyond convenience. Embracing this technology can lead to more accurate and verifiable data, improved service delivery, and greater public trust in our institutions. As one CTO once said to me, it's pretty rare that a technology comes along that can improve security and privacy while also improving the customer experience. Now is the time to act. The technology is ready, the trust framework is in place, and the benefits are clear. Every agency has a role to play in this transformation. It's not just about adopting new tools, it's about leading the way in creating a more effective, secure, and user-centric public service. The question is, are we ready to seize the opportunity and drive the change that will define the future of our digital interactions? The question is, are you and your agencies ready to seize this opportunity for the betterment of New Zealanders? If you are, drop me an email and we can work to win over some decision makers in your organisation. Ngā mihi nui, kia koutou katoa. Thank you.
Andrew, come on down. The price is right. Here it goes. So Andrew's here. He's going to, from DIA, and he's going to follow up with a focus on verifiable credentials in action. And you're going to demonstrate real-world applications and benefits of the technology.
I'm sure going to try.
Okay. And then you can talk to us about how you competed in the National Origami Championship and created a life-size paper crane. It's got it here. When it's written down on paper, it's true.
Yeah, I'm not sure that... Do you have a credential to help prove that? Maybe?
Sure.
No?
I'm usually an overshare, but not on this occasion.
See, funnily enough, I've actually got a brother-in-law who's amazing at origami and probably could have won that competition, but sadly not me. Kia koutou, ko Andrew Jones toku ingoa. I'm Andrew Jones. I'm a product lead in the product innovation team in DIA. I've got a whole bunch of slides, actually. It's about 7 of them, and I'll talk through them in a minute. But I just first wanted to ask you guys, if you had to prove who you are right now, what would you do? Does anyone have any ID that they'd pull out? Yeah, everyone? Is it physical? Is it digital? Physical. Yeah, I thought so. Is it a driver's license, passport? Anyone crazy enough to have their birth certificate on them now? No? Okay, cool. When you're looking at those documents, as James was talking about before, there is so much information on them that you don't actually necessarily need to prove who you are. Like, this says I'm Andrew. If I was to prove it, you'd find out my home address for my driver's license, my organ donor status, a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe I have to wear corrective lenses. Maybe I've got one of those fancy little pink licenses that has conditions on it. You don't need to know any of that stuff. You just need to know who I am. And it's just something really interesting to think about as you're going forward and what information you're actually sharing. So just thought I'd ask. So I'm going to talk to you today. I went backwards, forward. There we go. About three things. A little bit about DIA's place in this whole ecosystem that James was just describing. A little bit about our journey so far. Can you all hear me? I'm standing really far back. I want to move, but I'm tied to this spot. A little bit about the journey so far for my team and what we've been doing, and then I'm going to talk to you about the verifiable credential sandbox that we've got. So, firstly, DIA is, we're huge. There's a lot of us here, and we've got a whole bunch of places in this system that we work in. James has kind of already talked about the system leadership and policy and regulation with this whole DISTIF and the Trust Framework Authority, so I'm not going to bother with those. I'm just going to talk about this last area, service delivery, because we're in product innovation as part of service delivery operations. We know a lot about people. We hold information, and we want to be able to get that information packaged up nicely, safely, and trustworthily, is that a word? Yes, sure, why not, into your hands for you to use. We've been getting pushed for quite a while for this to happen, and so we've been looking at it since about mid-2019, a long time before the sort of guidance around the DISTIF and how that was going to work came to be. It's in the wrong spot for my thumb. So, how many of you guys know what verifiable credentials are at a really high level? A lot of people? Cool, because it occurred to me at about 3 in the morning last night. I hadn't actually defined them in here anyway. Essentially, it's a little trusted packet of information that we can give to you to hold on your device in whatever way that you choose, that is safe, trustworthy, and verifiable. There's a few standards that it could follow, but that's what it boils down to. So, 2019, we start looking at how we can actually get your information to you. We worked with Auckland University and one of our tech vendors, and we built this really nice prototype system. There was a broker in the middle, there was a wallet sitting off to the top, and it worked. Just when we were going to do a little bit more exploration into it, COVID hit. Things went on hold for a little while. But we came back into it mid-2022 where we were going, okay, we've done the prototyping in the past, let's look at a little bit more high-level policy. How can we actually go from where we are at the moment with RealMe and verified IDs and that sort of stuff, and where can we go in the future? And so we put out a white paper, Transition to Verifiable Credentials. I've got a link at the end of this with all the white papers. They're actually pretty good reads. We got a lot of feedback from the people we sent that to, and it was great, but a lot of the people were going, that's awesome, but how is it actually going to work? How is it going to hang together? Do you have any technical details, any technical demos? And we did, but we also didn't. It was also around about then that we were starting to find out around the general draft sort of design of the ecosystem with information sources and facilitation providers, binding services, all of that sort of stuff, and what might need to be accredited in the future. So we went, okay, cool, let's build a little proof of concept. So we worked with NEC and Zoosh, and we did this. And I've got some videos to show you in a minute, which I think are pretty cool. Forgive the model in them. He was having an off day, but whatever. And that was good. We got a lot of technical learnings from that. Things like when we did our first prototype in 2019, there wasn't really any standards or anything to follow. When we were doing it in 2023, the standards had actually started catching up and they were being developed and platforms were starting to appear on the market, that sort of thing. So a little bit of learnings there. We put out a white paper based on all of that learning that sort of encapsulated so you want to be a credential issuer, here are the capabilities we think you're going to need to look at and investigate. You want to be a verifier, you need these sort of capabilities. Same for facilitators, people that will have wallets for you to hold information. And then we put out a paper end of last year going, I already said that, didn't I? Sorry. I'm a little nervous if you couldn't tell. So yeah, we put out the paper. We asked for a whole bunch of feedback, and people were generally going, yeah, this sounds good. This is the right direction. What standards are you using? Can we see it in action? And so I'll get to where we went to with that in a minute, but losing track. So we have put out what we're calling the VC sandbox, which I'll talk about in a minute, but firstly, because I think it's interesting, we'll look at the videos that I have. Now, this is a little video. I'm going to hit play. This is based off the prototype we built middle of 2023. Good, it does work. Essentially, I'm a user. I need to get credentials. I need to get a wallet to put them in. So we have this thing that we built, MyWhy. The name's been used by someone else now, I've found out, but that's okay. Essentially, this will be a holder app that I'll be able to bind myself to going through this process, a little bit of biometric matching in there, and it's now mine. Only I can get into that wallet. I need to get credentials, so I hit the Get Credential button, and now I go through identity check. This is a capability that we've developed within product innovation. I forget our name, we just had a restructure. And it is essentially proves in real time right now this document details that I'm entering. There'll be an FR match in a second and a liveness check. It's a binding right now to that information. This is the capability MSD are using as part of their onboarding. We did a pilot with hospitality a little bit before that. So, this is a capability that is live out there right now. So, I've gone through this process. I've entered my document details. I've done a liveness check. Magic is happening in the background that will bind me to that information, and it gets packaged up nicely, put back in the wallet as credentials. There it goes. I'm actually slightly ahead of where I normally am at this moment in the video. So here we have 6 credentials. At the time, we were going selective disclosure. You only want to disclose what you want. How do we do that? None of the standards supported it. So we built 6 little credentials. Standards have moved on since then. We can now do it all in one credential. So it's, the rapid pace of the technology behind this is pretty impressive, if I must say so. But yeah, here we have 6 credentials: my name, my date of birth, place, gender, photo, and the fact that I'm over 18. No longer do I need to give out my date of birth. I can just pull up a picture of me and a big green tick saying, I'm 18. Ooh, cool. So that's the first video. Second video is, now that I've got those credentials, I want to use them, right? So I go into the supermarket. I'm going to go buy some alcohol, but currently a supervisor walks over, they look at me, they go, yeah, sure, I guess we have to do the check, but it's pretty obvious that you're not 18. But I scan the alcohol, I'll hit play, I'll scan the alcohol, and then they walk over. In the future, it could be as simple as I scan that alcohol, this QR code pops up on the screen, pull out the wallet, go scan it. Any second now, cool. Goes, cool. They're asking for this little bit of information. Do you consent to share it? Sure. Tick the wallet, hit the button, tick the wallet. And there we go. In the background, that point of sale now has the information. It's all verified. It's all trustworthy. It's all safe. And no supervisor needs to find out I need corrective light lenses to drive. So that's 2 really simple things. We want it to be that easy for you to get information about yourself, nice and verified. We want it to be that easy for you to actually use that information. All goes back to what James was saying. Now, like I said, we put out this white paper and we got a whole bunch of feedback, and a lot of people were like, okay, that's cool. What to next? So we've opened it up. We've got a credential issuance service. We've opened up the APIs for that into what we're calling the VC sandbox. And that is essentially, mixing my words up. That is essentially steps 2 and 3 in this box. So on the screen, you have the journey that you just saw in the videos, a customer initiating a journey, going through getting a holder, going through identity proofing, getting the credentials, and then using it. Our sandbox handles that step 2 and 3. And as James was saying, call to action. We'd like you guys to come talk to us and actually see what you could do in this area. If you've got anything that might work as a holder, we want to see it. If you actually just want to consume information at the end, we want to hear from you. We want to be able to get our credentials to you and see how that would work in your system. We have a whole bunch of objectives for the sandbox. There's some business ones, of course. We want to make sure that we're actually issuing the right stuff. But we do want to actually also address questions like the end-to-end customer journey, social license, all of those fun things. And we actually want to try and bring you guys along on the journey as well. So the questions you ended with, what were they? What information do you want and what do you have? Those are what we want to ask you as well. What do you need? Are you ready to consume these? If not, if you are, great. If not, come talk to us. Let's see what we can do about that. And I think I've probably waffled on for long enough. I kept forgetting to look over this way to see if the things were being held up. Time to wrap it up? Sweet. So that simply leaves me with questions. If you want to email me, I've got an email address there, and the white papers that we put out are at the other end of that QR code if you're really interested. So as a registration form for our sandbox. Hopefully I haven't waffled on too long. And yeah.
Is that a typo in your email?
It is quite possibly a typo. Credentials, yeah, there might be meant to be an I. in there, verifiable. Yeah,
That wasn't verified.
it wasn't verified. Use the QR code, it's a better way to get me. Cool.
Your Slido's going well. So the first question up is, how about non-Crown credential issues like iwi and hapu?
Yes, so 100%. I focused on public sector because this is Govis. But in a decentralised digital identity ecosystem, anybody can be an issuer of credentials. That's also the reason why we have a trust framework and accreditation, because anywhere that anyone can issue credentials doesn't necessarily mean trust is there. I could create you a credential today that says you're Ronald McDonald, 320 years old, and live on the moon, but you might not necessarily trust that, although it is verifiable. So absolutely anybody can issue, and that's what the accreditation process is. And I saw a question up there about iwi and hapu. Absolutely. So they hold really important, useful information about their members and about those with heritage, and we're already having those discussions about the opportunities that this could present. Because it also, by putting data back in control of individuals, there's a big push here for data sovereignty, and there's a lot of great alignment here.
Yes, the next one's definitely you, yeah. Where is Real Me in all of this?
So Real Me is sitting up the back there with a guy called John Keane. If John, could you wave? No? Yep, there he is. So Real Me is one of the capabilities that we offer. It's one way that you can verify your identity, and it's a service that is going to continue to exist out there. Identity check is a second way. Verifiable credentials are a third way, and that's sort of the current, the emerging, and the future, as I like to think of them. But Real Me is always going to be around because there are use cases for that to actually work as it currently does. There are use cases in the future for VCs, and there's definitely use cases for identity check. So it's just about our team making the right suite of identity products for you moving forward in the future, not just focusing on one little area.
Yeah, good next question, actually.
Yeah, a local company called JNCTN spent the past decade building a system that does all this. How do you consolidate competing platforms that solve the same problem?
Yes, so Junction are a fantastic local organisation who we have a great relationship with and who have helped feed into the trust framework. I think the key point here is because decentralised digital identity is based around common standards, it's actually not about consolidating competing platforms. It's about all platforms speaking the same language and so being able to interact. So that sort of addresses the question. One of the key features of the production of a DIA credential is that on the other side, anyone could potentially receive that because it's based on common standards and you can create common platforms or use existing platforms. Verification of those credentials becomes incredibly, relatively straightforward. And then the top one?
Yeah.
It's probably... Yeah, so why should I trust the technology behind the platform? That's a really good question. We do talk about trust and security and privacy a lot. This would be an entire 8-hour-long session if we talked about the intricacies of the platform and the technologies and the standards. I would really recommend diving into those for those and many in this room who are tech inclined, looking at those standards and the models about how. I think the key thing that I'd point out is that the standards for verifiable credentials weren't developed by a bunch of governments wanting to go, we're going to do something nefarious. They were actually designed by a lot of tech developers and hackers, for lack of a better phrase, who wanted identification systems that were decentralized, that put them back in control, and that stopped large players, whether that government or tech organisations, having full total control over, like you might see in a federated identity system or other platforms.
Thanks very much,
Cool.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.